JT, Brett McMurphy of On3 has released his way too early college football playoff prediction. And not BYU. No, sir, not BYU. Not the resurging Houston. No. Not the portal spending, the new Oklahoma State. No, he's got the Utah Utes in the college football playoff. What say you?
It's possible. I don't think we're sitting here today. When you look at a Big 12 power rankings, it's Tech 1, it's BYU 2, then it's a mess, right? You mentioned.
Do you agree with that, by the way? Do you agree with that?
I do, actually, even though I'm the Utah guy, right? Like, you just look at
addendum, even without Parker Kingston for BYU.
Yeah, I think so. I still think I look at the overall talent. I look at the run game there, and I think that, right, hey, this is the Utah guy, right? I've seen Utah win the Big 12, not Big 12, but the Pac-12 without a super dynamic passing game, and you figure out a way to make it work through the air, and then you have the QB, you have the running back, you have the defense to get it done. I still believe BYU has that, even though also obviously Jay Hill not there anymore either, but I still think they deserve to be right up there with Tech as the favorites in this conference. But I don't think it's crazy to have Utah in the college football playoff, especially when you look at the schedule. Because if you look at this Utah roster on paper right now versus last year, I think they got worse. You lose all 5 starters on what was one of the 5 best offensive lines in the country, and you lose all your talent along the defensive line too. All the starters there are gone too. You get worse. But at the same time, you look at the schedule. Oh, BYU comes to us. Houston comes to us. Arkansas comes to us which matters for playoff reasoning. Toughest road game at Arizona. That still feels very winnable. I'm curious to see if Arizona can go have a really strong year once again, like they did last year. So for Utah, it's Devon Dampier, right? Being the guy, maybe use Bird Ficklin in some fun and dynamic ways. I think Morgan Scalley is going to be a pretty seamless transition from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan. He learned under him. He knows the culture that he wanted to establish. He knows what it takes to win at the highest level. I think this Utah defense is still going to be really good. Yeah, they lost some guys in the portal, but they've lost guys in the past and still managed to be a good defense. Granted, run defense fell off at the end of the year. We know that, but still finished as the second best total defense in the Big 12. So, yeah, am I sitting here today saying Utah is going to be a playoff team? Personally, no. Could I absolutely see them getting in? Yeah, especially when I look at that schedule, Drake.
Yeah, let's go to that schedule. And Idaho, your favorite, obviously. Arkansas, your favorite, obviously. Utah State, yep. At Iowa State. I think Iowa State's a 4-8 team next year. Mm-hmm. That sucks because I love their fan base. I love their people.
Great fan base.
How do you recoup after that? Iowa State is a win on the road. Probably one of those gross 11 a.m. kickoff, 10 a.m. kickoff games, Mountain Time. Then Kansas at home. That's a win. At Colorado, you're favored in that game. In the first 6 games that Utah plays, they should go 6-0. There's a very good window for them to go 6-0 before they get to Houston. Cincinnati should be a win. BYU, Arizona, TCU, West Virginia. The back half of the schedule is much tougher, and Utah could still finish 7-5, could still finish 8-4. But JT, I see a pretty clear 6-0 right there.
I do too. You mentioned it, all those teams in there, and even the back half, right? Like a TCU. Yeah, you got to go to a TCU. I don't know what TCU is going to look like next year. I'm very intrigued by that. Cincinnati loses Sorsby. So like you mentioned, that should be a win. Also, Houston has had a really strong year last year. But going and winning in Utah still takes a pretty special team if you look over the last few years outside of 2 years ago. Yes, 2 years ago was rough for this Utah team. But overall, when they have their starting quarterback or even just a really good team that's firing on all cylinders, it takes the Oregons, it takes a Tech, it takes a caliber of a team capable of making the 12-team playoff to go into Salt Lake City and get a win. Whether it's the altitude, the crowd noise, the stadium, the way they are too, and this Utah defense, they just play better at home. It takes a lot to win. Can Houston do that? They possibly can, but that's not foregone conclusion. Even when Utah had their really rough year, they didn't make a bowl game. BYU barely squeaked out of there with a W, right? And controversial because of that one call as well, too. I'm not trying to say that it was a bad call. I'm just saying it was a controversial one, right? The Arizona one, as we mentioned. There's just a lot of winnable games. Like, what is West Virginia going to be like at the end of the season? I have no idea. Are they going to be a team that finds their footing in year 2 under Rich Rod, or is it going to be we got to hit the portal hard again? This year 2 of this experiment did not work out. So Utah's schedule to me unquestionably got easier. I think they upgraded. Utah did actually at wide receiver overall. When you look at Pagan, the Utah State transfer coming in, all Mountain West caliber guy too, and still some really strong returning pieces on defense, especially in that secondary. A Utah team that should still have really strong coaching, as I mentioned, with Morgan Scalley. And when you got that guy at quarterback, and I think Devon Dampier is that guy, Drake, you got a chance. So I could absolutely see a 10-win season once again for this Utah team.
Yeah, it is the soft launching point that, to me, gives Utah a big leg up down the stretch to have the confidence to continue to win as the season goes on. With Brett McMurphy, and for those that are listening on audio, he has Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, Miami. No big surprises there. Texas, which has not worked out in the last few years greatly. So he's got Texas Tech in there, so 2 Big 12 teams, which is awesome. Indiana at the 7 spot. In the 8-hole, Oregon, 9th, Utah in the college football playoff. Texas A&M at 10. Oklahoma is back at 11. UTSA is the group of 5 representative as the 12 seed playing Texas. He has Notre Dame winning the whole thing, by the way. I disagree with a lot of this college football playoff, but it is the way too early, so I'll give Brett McMurphy a free pass there. What does this say about the Utah brand, that despite losing everything they lost, they're still at the top of mind for guys like Brett McMurphy to pick them in the college football playoff after losing their head coach and the entire O-line?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the confidence that everyone has in Morgan Scalley, a guy who's been the head coach and waiting for a very long time for a reason. When you have a guy like Morgan Scalley, an elite coordinator at your program, you do everything you can to keep him around and make him the next guy when he takes over. Similar to when Urban Meyer stepped down. Ryan Day was the one who got promoted. I know people have lots of opinions on Ryan Day. That's a coach of a national championship team still. Lincoln Riley, when he was at Oklahoma, helped them get to the playoff several times there. Hasn't worked out great at USC, but those guys have won at a very high level. And I think Morgan is going to win at a very high level with Utah. I think when you look at a team like a Utah too, what Brett McMurphy probably sees is the returning quarterback. It's the most important position on the field, right, Drake? Yes, you can overcome it with other things, but when you have that quarterback, it makes all the difference in the world. And I think with what Devon Dampier showed, especially, he was playing injured for most of the season and still was the Big 12 newcomer of the year. He's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the country. He can get it done with his arm and his legs. I'm expecting big things out of him. And yes, Utah has a lot of work to do on the offensive line, but I don't think they'll be bad next year. Utah did not have Spencer Fano or Caleb Lomu, 2 future first-round offensive tackles off the board in the NFL draft. It was 2 backup tackles, and those guys both still excelled. One of them for sure going to be a starter next year. The other, questions about his eligibility, if he's going to be back or not too. But even though you lose a lot on the coaching staff, there's still a decent amount there depth-wise that should be able to step in and replace. Like, Utah's lost NFL caliber defensive backs over the years, and they always have really good players there, right? That's a large credit due to Sharif Shaw, but I expect this Utah team to be among the elite in the Big 12 once again. Where do you have Utah right now, Drake? I'm curious. Are they in your top 5?
I struggle to say top 5 definitively because I really like what Houston's doing. Obviously, BYU and Texas Tech will be I think will be at the top of the conference under that sexy pick, and I'm buying that. Noah Fafita's back. No one's talking about that, by the way. No one seems to care that Noah Fafita's back. But the Big 12's got, pardon me, I think they're going to be a little more ass at the bottom this year than what we've had the last few years. Yeah, I think Arizona State has a resurgence this year too. I think they'll finish above Utah. I think West Virginia will fall in line to what Houston did in year 2 under Willie Fritz. I think West Virginia wins 8, maybe 9 games and surprises a lot of people. Oklahoma State, we've got a lot of faith in what Eric Morris is doing, but Kansas State lost its head coach. And Iowa State lost its head coach. And I don't love where Kansas is right now. I don't
Baylor?
love where Iowa State. I don't like where Baylor is right now. I don't like where TCU. I don't love where TCU is. They're just that, all right, 7-5, 8-4, 9-3. Pick one, throw a dart at it. Great. Utah, new head coach, new O-line. Same quarterback, yes. New offensive coordinator. There are a lot of questions about Utah, and of the teams that have a ton of questions, Iowa State, Kansas State, Kansas is again up there. The Utah, Cincinnati, I think will be bad next year. The Utah Utes, I have the most confidence in, of that tier of, hey, this could go really bad, or it could surprise a lot of people. I've got Utah in the surprise a lot of people category in that 5, 6, 7 spot in the Big 12, finishing 8-4, 9-3. So contending for a Big 12 championship into the final couple of weekends. But I don't think any Utah fans should be upset. Don't throw rocks at that. 8-4 next year after what you lost, what you went through in the offseason. I think that'd be a pretty big win.
Oh, it'd be a massive win, as you mentioned. So much of this staff, the players went to Michigan with Kyle Whittingham. So many off to the NFL draft. So if you are at least just in the conversation multiple weeks into the season to still be among the Big 12's best, and you finish at 8-4, that's still a win. Yeah, it'd be a little disappointing with some of the way the schedule falls. Maybe you lose some games you shouldn't. But at the same time, to lose what you did, still be a contender, shows the mark of an elite program, especially a new year with a new head coach, too. That's something that I do think will go well, as I said, but that's still a question mark that remains to be seen. Just like some of the guys you mentioned, Brett Brennan, Willie Fritz, can they get their team there to the conference title game where they're in contention in those last couple weeks, truly in contention. I know Houston technically was if certain things fell their way, but I have questions about if they can get it there. Weirdly enough, I have questions about Morgan Scalley that way. I think that's the Utah Utes stuff in my background, but remains to be seen in 2026.
JT says that Utah basketball will be better than BYU next year. That's going to be, just kidding. He won't. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Can we revive Utah basketball? Here is some perspective on the most hapless team maybe in the conference this year that's still fighting. They're still competing. And can they build on that next year? You'll want to know because it affects how your team ends up in Big 12 basketball in 2027. This is Locked On Big 12, Locked On Utes crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Look, you all got so mad last time I hired an intern because they went to BYU. They were a BYU student. Like, Twitter account only tweets about BYU. Well, yeah, he was like a kid that was enrolled there. Now's your time. Now's your moment. Indeed sponsor jobs to apply to be an intern for Locked On Big 12. And you can apply at Indeed sponsor jobs because the stat says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed according to Indeed data worldwide. You can check all the boxes. Make it easy. Make hiring super easy with Indeed sponsored jobs. Save time. Less stress. Less time, more results. All listeners of this show, $75 in sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed.